Hello, we are from MT Pros, and here are the lessons learned from the pilot project. The first lesson was about data selection. We had insufficient training data, so the Netflix Media Center data was replaced with TED Talks corpus. Also, the translation quality of the testing data was low. The São Paulo International Film Festival data was replaced with Netflix Media Center data. To get clean and good quality data from the start, we created Excel files that later were easily aligned and converted into TMX files. The second lesson learned was about alignment. We tried Tradus first using bilingual Excel files and sentence-based segmentation settings, but it resulted in bad alignment. So we moved to UAlign, where no settings were required, and the alignment was perfect. That saved us a lot of time.
On this slide, you can see our timeline. And we started the project on March 1st and ended on the 31st. As you can see here, our timeline is not linear, meaning that we had to mix a few different stages together. We started preparing the data, then we had to go into rounds, then we did evaluation. After doing evaluation, we also were able to get some tips and feedback from the linguists, and then we were able to reuse that information to adjust our data, which will be put in the modules. And also, while we were running the rounds, we continued to clean the data. So we realized that we spent maybe a little bit too much time on preparing versus running the modules, and we were a little behind the schedule.
So the data preparation took us way longer than we thought it was going to. We had to locate appropriate and useful corpora to use for our testing, and then the cleaning and data cleaning was very extensive as well, because we had to find the best way to do the data cleaning. Because the files were so large, we had a hard time dealing with that issue. Olifant kept crashing, and I forgot to save every time I made a change, so it would crash, and then we had to start all over. So it was a really good lesson learned for us. We learned that it was better to use export the files as text, TXT, so we would be able to copy smaller chunks into Excel and then go into some more alignment and cleaning there. It was very extensive work. And then after that was done, we would have to go ahead and break down the large files in order to create smaller TMX files to run into the machine. Another thing that I would like to use for our lessons learned was a tool that I found that was very useful to compare between two files and run quick post-editing machine translation. As you can see here, we have two different files side by side, and it was easy to be able to check for error classification and perform a faster post-editing.
On this slide, you can see our 10 rounds. And in red, we highlighted the modules where we didn't use the tuning data. And as you can see, there's not much difference between the results with and without tuning data. So it made us realize that maybe we spent too much time finding and cleaning the tuning data, and it didn't make a big difference. So as a lesson learned, we think that maybe in the future, it's not necessary to spend as much time for tuning data, or maybe not use it at all.
Hello, I'm Betania, and I'm going to present on our quality goals. For human evaluation, we use the MQM framework, which a score of 30 points or less, it's a good one. So for our first sample on module 1, We had a score of total of 95 points, which was a major fail, a major disappointment. And most of the issues we found was mistranslation and accuracy and fluency, among others. On our last module, module 10, we had only 12 points, so that was definitely a pass. It was a success. And we had only major issues with mistranslations, just some words that's just not quite right for the content. And the difference between sample 1 and sample 2, the sample 2 in module 10, we add a small dictionary, and also the tuning data was shortened to 5 to 10 sentences per segment, so that helped us a lot. Timing goals. At the beginning of the project, we said the PEMT would be at least 30% faster than human translation. So our sample size was 1,500 words. The entire project will be 1 million words, for example. So PEMT for both modules took 4.5 hours total, 3 and 1 hour and a half. And if you had a human translator to do the entire project, that would take over 500 days for the entire project. So based on those calculations, PEMT is at least 65% faster than human translation.
Hi, one lesson learned is that we want to have the best tools to calculate a more accurate budget when estimating the cost on a project. This cost table calculates the project cost, gives us direction, and assists us with our project cost based on tasks, hours spent, quantity, and rate. We started with data cleaning, then training data for a specific domain, and post-edited the outcome, and finally evaluated the machine translation quality by native speakers. Here is our updated proposal to define and outline the project cost. As you can see, the proposal contains introduction, a brief overview of the project, objectives, data and timeline charts, the project process flow, cost, deliverables, and appendix. Thank you.
As a conclusion, we arrived at the following comparison between our goals and realized efforts. Although it's very clear that in terms of efficiency, post-editing is much faster than human translation, in terms of cost and quality, this project would need to be further developed and refined. With our final calculation, the approximate price for the initial training was $6,960. Given that we would anticipate further future costs for continuing data mining and cleaning within our domain, we can say that this type of NMT training only starts making sense if the total number of words in the desired projects is around 2 million or more. Anything less or a smaller project size would at least break the cost calculation even or end up in loss in financial investment, and it's not recommended. With our human evaluations, we arrived at the final conclusion that the overall quality of our custom MT output achieved a good enough level by the end of the training, by the 10th module, and it passed the MQ1 benchmark. This shows us that with further training and constantly improving and increasing, especially the tuning data, we can train the engine to create successful outcomes for this specific domain. However, even the highest blue score was lower than the system baseline score. This indicates that we are not certain how much you can improve this particular NMT engine to produce better output than what is already available by default. Again, it would take constant future experimenting, data mining, cleaning, and working to know the answer, which would naturally involve costs again, and the project might not come out as profitable. However, if training to be continued, here is our recommendation: to use perfectly aligned TMX files, to continue adding even more relevant data within the domain, to choose shorter and less complex sentences in tuning data, add a domain-specific dictionary, and keep cleaning. Thank you very much for watching.